Welcome to the Vol Bros, presented by the Ultiwa Club. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And as always, we are incredibly grateful for the Ultiwa Club. They are very good to us, very kind to us. We were there today with Rustin's kids, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. All total, we shot pretty well. We played as a team, did best ball, so we played pretty well. But man, what a time to be alive if you're a Tennessee fan. And we are very fortunate tonight that we get to be joined by Mr. Reed Carringer, the magazine that is over my right shoulder there. He is one of the people who wrote that magazine. And so, Reed, welcome. We are so glad you're with us, as always.
Great to talk to you guys. It's been a lot has happened in the vol football and college football world since we spoke last. So glad to be here.
How's it feel to be after watching Tennessee for the last 15 years? How's it feel to say that Tennessee's going to a meaningful postseason game?
It's well, it's something we talked about to start the season, right? That this was on the table for Tennessee. We thought 10-2 might get them there. And sure enough, here we are. The two part of that was one of the losses was not one we expected, but kind of the season has gone about how we thought in a lot of ways, and the Vols have a lot of meaningful football potentially left in front of them headed into December. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. We got 5 topics for this evening, and we're going to do always our usual 3. Hey, Brendan's excited to see you. Brendan, we're excited to see you too, man. Welcome. He's pumped up. We got a bunch of comments coming through, so I'm going to try to get to those as well. We already got people asking about player of the game, people mentioning home playoff game. We'll see. I hope. Rustin thinks we got it. I got a really cool thing. I didn't tell either one of y'all about this, but I got a cool thing for both of you later. Reed, we'll start with you, and then Rustin. What were your main takeaways from what you saw yesterday from Tennessee football?
And the biggest thing for me was just resiliency. This was a must-win, obviously, football game for this program, for Heupel, for those players. You go to a place that's been tough for teams to play this year, and Tennessee's road woes have been well documented at times. And so you get down, you spot them 14 points, and you're thinking, oh no, here we go again. And they just kept coming. And so I think there's the resiliency of the performance as a whole. When they were getting whooped at the line of scrimmage to start, and they ended up playing really well, ended up wearing Vanderbilt down, and Vanderbilt had really nothing for them once Tennessee got the lead and took control of the game. So a very resilient win, given the circumstances. A huge win, and arguably, one of the biggest wins in our lifetimes as Vol fans, right? Who would have thought we'd say that about a game in Nashville to end the season? But here we are.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. This is, arguably since '98, this is the biggest win Tennessee has had.
Clinched the playoff berth, right? Clinched like a chance to play for a national championship. When's the last time Tennessee won a game that clinched them a chance to play for a national championship?
That's a fantastic point. Rustin, what were your takeaways from what you saw yesterday?
I'll go back to our previous show. I said 3 things that I wanted to see. Number 1, win the line of scrimmage. We had 281 rushing yards to their 109. We had 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. They had 2 tackles for loss total, no sacks. So, definitely won the line of scrimmage. I wanted to see them make sure they had good eye discipline and they upheld their assignments on defense. They allowed 213 total yards. If you allow 213 total yards, you did your assignment. And then I said we wanted to see at least one receiver step up and have a big day and really distance themselves. It ended up being 3. In the first half, it was Dante Thornton. In the second half, it was a combination of Chris Brazzell and Mike Matthews. So it was great to see guys stepping up and performing. And, if there were three things I wanted to see, I think we checked all three boxes.
Absolutely. So I'll follow your well, first of all, the main takeaway, Mr. Reed just a second ago. When was the last time Tennessee did what they were supposed to do? Like, all you had to do was win this one game and you're in. Honestly, the last time that I can personally remember is 2007, when they beat Kentucky in that 4 overtime game, I think it was, in Lexington. And was it 4 or was it 7 overtimes? I can't remember. I think it was 4.
I was at that game. I lost track.
A bunch of overtimes. That's
an ugly football game.
And I remember, I think it was Arian Carter. I almost said Arian Carter. Not Arian Carter. Well, Arian Foster. I'm getting Arian Carter and Arian Foster. The names combined there. Arian Foster, they win the game, and he threw the ball about 40 rows up into the stands. I remember that. Somebody did. I think it was him. But that was the last time in my memory that Tennessee did what they were supposed to do, winning the game, and that got them into the SEC championship game. They did what they were supposed to do yesterday. Like, that's a huge thing for Vol fans. Because I'm sure it wasn't just me that when they were down 14-0 less than 5 minutes into the game, there were probably a whole bunch of us sitting there thinking, yep, here we go. I've seen this story before. And thankfully, they righted the ship. On our show Thursday night, I mentioned that, we always do, who do we think we'll be talking about as like the player of the game? Well, I said that I think we'll be talking about the offensive line as collectively the players of the game. And I feel like they held their end up. They held their end of the bargain up. When you think about the fact that Nico had all night and all afternoon to sit back there and throw the ball, that was fantastic. The times that he was somewhat hurried, he hung in there and made great throws. I'll specifically mention one play that proves exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody, if you have a chance, everybody go back and watch the first play of the fourth quarter. As we know now, what's makes it even more interesting is in that timeout before the fourth quarter, they interviewed Clark Lee, and he said, we have to get a stop right here because it was a fourth down play. It was 4th and 1. And he's like, we have to get a stop right here. And then we come out, we start the quarter, and Tennessee's offensive line blew Vanderbilt's defensive line off the ball. Not 2 yards, they were still pushing them 5, 6, 7 yards downfield. And there was just this like pocket for Dylan Sampson to run the ball in straight up the middle. It was unbelievable. It was so incredible to watch. So I invite everybody to go back and watch the first play of the fourth quarter. You will not be disappointed. And then the last thing, Heupel mentioned it after the game, the competitive composure of the team to be down 14-0 and then outscore them, 36-9?
Yeah.
After that.
And basically gave him that last touchdown essentially just to melt the clock away. Yeah, played soft. Right.
I mean, I saw a stat after the game and I was like, wow, that was Tennessee's first win after trailing 14-0 since 2017. They had lost their previous 33 straight games where they were down 14-0. So kudos to them. Because like Reed said, that is obviously not an easy place to play this season. Just ask Alabama or Texas. And Tennessee performed much better than either one of those teams did in Nashville. All right. So before we get to our segment, I'm going to try to get through some comments real quick. Let's see. Rhonda, welcome, Rhonda. Good to have you. She said, evening, Vol Bros and everyone. All I want for Christmas is a natty. Amen. I like it. Mino Likey, welcome. Good to have you. She said, great evening, good evening, Vol Bros, Reed, and the best chat on the interweb. Hey, I agree. Totally. Kevin's excited. He said, let's go Vols. Absolutely. Elijah said, what's up, Vol Bros and Reed? Let's see. Kevin said, who was your player of the game and why was it Jermon McCoy? I like that. We'll come back to that here in a little bit. Mississippi Vol. Good evening, guys. I believe Nico became a man out there yesterday. He handled a high-stakes game like a champ. He was able to connect on some big plays when it mattered. Totally agree. He said, just goes to show you how potent our offense can be if we can just connect on about 3 of those every game. Yeah, I mean, even if it's just 2 of them. I mean, like that was – you're exactly right. Absolutely. SEC football said, can't believe Hayward decommitted. All right, so we're not going to talk about Hayward tonight. We're celebrating tonight.
It doesn't matter. I would much rather have a proven DB in the portal with 2 years of experience left over a high school kid.
Like Thomas or McCoy, right? Yeah, to your point, yeah, we can talk about kind of the recruiting landscape and stuff at some point, but I'm with Rustin on just my philosophy now. If you only have X amount of dollars to spend on somebody, I love getting a plug and play starter, and it has worked for Tennessee this year beautifully, which we will talk about some of those players, I'm sure, in the next couple of segments here.
Absolutely. Speaking of the transfer portal, Concepcion, the wide receiver from NC State, entered the transfer portal today.
With 2 years of eligibility left.
I don't know if it was us. I know when we were watching that game, there were a lot of people commenting, man, that dude would look really good in orange. And here we got a shot, you know?
Yep, that's exactly right.
High school teammates with James Pierce Jr.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Mina Laggy said, I have a lot of players in the game. I agree with that. Robert said, good evening, bros. Great time for the Vols. Absolutely. Let's see here. Jonathan, welcome, buddy. He said, hello, Vol Bros. My battered Vol syndrome had a major flare-up after the first 5 minutes. Amen, brother. Amen. Tennessee Junior, welcome, buddy. He said, come on, home playoff game. Kneeling on playoff mode. Sign me up. Oh, man, yeah. And what was really interesting, there was some article or something on the internet. Of course, everything you see on the internet has to be true. But there was some article on the internet talking about how the NCAA essentially controls the price of tickets for the playoff games, and playoff tickets will be somewhere between the range of $100 to $250. If that's the case, woo, buddy, somebody's gonna buy them and resell them on like StubHub for like $3,000.
It could be Super Bowl prices for a Neyland game, honestly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oreo Puppy Dog, welcome, buddy. He said, wonder who will get to play. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Greg said, go Oregon and Texas. All right, now that's interesting. We're going to talk about that too. We will definitely talk about that. SEC football said, trust me, you want Georgia to win the SEC championship. If Georgia loses, we play them first round. Not necessarily. I don't think they'll actually have 2 SEC teams play each other in the first round, because that would mean that 2 Big Ten teams also play each other the first round. I think they'll want opposing conferences playing each other.
I think you will see them strategically seed people for matchups. Mm-hmm. This is sports is entertainment more than competition. Like that's what it is. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're gonna want to see. They don't mind a rematch if it's after you win a game, I think. But I suspect they're going to do some witchcraft with the seeding to get some matchups. That's my feel for it right now.
Well, and there's precedent for that. We've seen that multiple years now with Georgia and Alabama both being in the playoff, and they've never played each other in the first round.
Right.
Even though there's only been 4 teams. So you got a 50-50 shot at playing them in the first round. They've never done it. And they've strategically moved them on years when they probably should have ended up playing each other in the first round. They've strategically seeded them to where they didn't. So there is precedent for that. Rhonda said, this team has matured right in front of our eyes. I think we saw them mature right in front of our eyes yesterday, actually. Let's see. Brennan, hey, you're right, Brennan. Brennan said, Evan said on Thursday we needed 2 big plays and we win. Nailed it. Andy Bernard nailed it, GIF. Nailed it, .gif. Let's see here. Kevin said the passing game looked much better yesterday. Absolutely. Bobby said Matthews did a heck of a job blocking. That man is a stud. Yeah, he has always been a fantastic perimeter blocking threat out there for Tennessee. Absolutely. Keg said, what's up, bros? We're in. Absolutely. Kevin said McCoy's interception was athletic and enjoyable. Amen, brother. And Rhonda said it was huge. Absolutely. Matt, this is another fellow Chattanoogan. He said, I was losing my mind first part of the first quarter. Yep, totally understand. Let's see. Rhonda said, y'all know what my watch was doing in the first minutes of those 5 minutes of the game. Like, it's time to breathe.
I did ponder going and just getting some farm work done there for a little while, thinking, you know what, I'm not going to sit through this right now. But I stuck it out. If we got to 21 or 24 to nothing, maybe I would have rethought that decision, but it didn't.
Yep. Bill said, I said Jermond was going to play a factor in the Vandy game, and boy, did he ever. Go Big Orange. Absolutely.
Why would you ever throw at him?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Every time I see another team throw his way, I don't understand what you're doing. Like the risk reward to that, even if you make a throw, and he did give up a couple of completions Saturday. Yeah, Thanksgiving week. I don't know what day it is. He gave up a couple of completions, but the windows, even if they complete a pass on him, are so small. And I just don't know why any quarterback would throw it his way. But keep doing it also.
Yep. You're exactly right. Sam said transfer portal didn't appear to work as well for Ole Miss and Ohio State yesterday. I got to have the right cultural fit. Kevin said, Evan, don't tell everyone my side hustle with the tickets. Will, welcome, buddy. Will's an Ohio State fan, so not a great day for him. Sorry about yesterday, Will. Actually, I'm kind of not because it helped Tennessee, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit too. Mississippi Vol said, you're correct, Evan. 2 deep shots a game would really open things up. But like I said, just think how it would look if we did hit all 3. Yeah, amen, brother. Absolutely. Let's hit 5 of them. How about that? Let's see. Brennan said, SEC Network said this during the game. Tennessee was 73 of 75, or 73 and 75, or maybe 75, 73 either way from 2009 to 2020. Forgot how bad we were. Heupel's the real deal. It's a great time to be a Tennessee Vol. Amen, brother. Amen. Absolutely. Let's see. Okay, this is a big question.
There's a stat. Sorry, Evan. There's a stat I know you guys saw on Twitter from Bill Martin that for the second time in 3 years, Tennessee football has won 10 regular season games. Josh Heupel's done it 2 times in 4 years, joining Philip Fulmer, who did it 5 times in 17 years, and General Neyland, who did it 5 times in 21 years, as the only coaches to win 10 games in the regular season multiple times. Philip Fulmer, General Neyland, and Josh Heupel for Tennessee football.
Not bad company.
That says it all right there, right?
Absolutely.
What else can you say? And everybody fired him in the first quarter of that Vandy game. So,
yeah. And to Reed's point, if you're not following Bill Martin on Twitter, do yourself a favor, follow Bill Martin on Twitter. It's fascinating, some of the stats he gets. It's incredible. He is the man as far as that goes. So Jonathan asked, was the picture of the Kentucky player, Gerald Mincey, at the concession stands during the game real?
Yes, it was. And Kentucky media is losing their mind over it. And Mark Stoops, unless something happened tonight that I didn't see, Mark Stoops refused to comment on it.
Yeah, that's probably not good.
And it wasn't just the Kentucky player. It was Gerald Mincey.
Exactly.
Former Vol, run his mouth all the time, Gerald Mincey was at the concession stand ordering hot dogs during the game, left the sideline and went to the concession stand.
Yep.
Mark Stoops was paid $1.8 million per touchdown this year at Kroger Field
Wow.
versus Power Conference teams.
That
$1.8
is the
million
best stat.
per touchdown that they scored this year at home.
That's the best stat I've heard all day. That's amazing.
They went 4-8. So next year, if he wins 6 games, he'll get a 20-year extension, and they'll build a statue.
Sam made a great point. He said, with Ward Manuel calling the shots, look out for the Big Ten to be hosting a lot of games.
I don't know about that.
Yes.
Because if Penn State loses to Oregon in the Big Ten championship, they're going to drop because their strength of schedule is so weak. After what happened at the end,
I'm with you, Russ. I agree with Rustin.
It is a highly petty conference. And after what happened at the end of the game between Michigan and Ohio State, Ward Manuel's going to stick it to Ohio State every chance he can get. They will be on the
that's
road.
fair. That's fair. Herb said, now this is a question for Reed. He said, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure Reed had a show on radio streamed in the mid 2010s. He had a guy, Patrick Schmidt, come on. What station was that? If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
No, Herb, yeah, appreciate you. Patrick Schmidt's awesome. He lives in Chicago. I need to get back in touch with him, but had him on, I think, every Tuesday. I had a radio show on Tennessee Sports Radio in the evenings for a long time, and then had a radio show on Rocky Top Insider Radio, and had Patrick on there as well. So good, really good dude. I think he recently got out of sports media, but I always liked his takes. So thanks for
Totally
listening.
agree.
Also for 10 years now.
Absolutely. I remember many a days listening to y'all on there. That's good radio right there. Andrew said, going to be a lot of people disturbed if they shift the final poll to create certain matchups. Agreed, but it's going to happen, and possibly thereby taking home games away from more deserving teams. Totally agree, and you are 100% correct. There will be some really angry people, and it's going to happen.
There's also going to be some really angry people when some of these conference championships get the top 4 seed and they don't even belong in the playoffs. So, what are you going to do?
State.
Yeah,
Boise State will be the 4th, maybe even the 3rd seed.
What if Clemson upsets SMU?
Exactly.
Clemson has no business even being in the playoff.
If that happens, then Boise State will be the 3 seed. We'll go over that here in just a minute.
Yeah, Tulane could jump Clemson though as well in that scenario.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird. I was trying to explain the conference championships and the highest ranked conference champions doesn't mean Power 5 for conference champions necessarily, and what that means. So Clemson could really get weird. Also,
yeah.
Like, side note, if you're Clemson and you clinch a championship spot after losing to your in-state rival and blowing a 4th quarter lead, what's that like? What's that celebration like? Do you celebrate? What do you do? Like, I don't know. I was thinking about that. I thought, what's that locker room look like after you get beat, blow a lead against your in-state rival, and somehow back your way into the ACC championship?
This bracket is going to be so jacked up this year and next year. Hopefully they're just an absolute mess and it forces them to stop doing this the way they're doing it. I mean, it's not going to be right no matter what they do.
Let's see here. A couple more comments. I'm having to just skim over them. I apologize to everybody, but we got a whole bunch of stuff to still talk about. Will said might be Tennessee versus Ohio State in the first round now. I would probably bet about it's going to be 70 to 75% chance it'll be Tennessee and Ohio State in the first round. And I'll go through all that here in a little bit when we break down the bracket. Mino Lackey, I hope you have a fantastic birthday tomorrow. That is very exciting. 29, right, Mino Lackey? I hope you have a fantastic birthday. Great day. Elijah said, told y'all Friday that Dante was going to go off on some long catches. You're right. Let's see. Greg said, ooh, this is a good question. Did this Vols team set a record for safeties this year? That's a good question. We need Bill Martin to get on that.
Yeah, that is a good question.
I think to that last point about Dante, I think the one thing we learned about Nico does not throw the deep ball well, but any deep in route, the dig, the post, the skinny
He's got it.
post, the sluggo, any of them, he loves the deep in route. He can throw that thing all day long. I can't figure out why, because technically that should be a tougher ball to throw than the fly route. I can't figure out why he struggles to throw the deep fly. But man, anything over the middle, he loves it. He thrives
Yeah.
on it.
We ate them up, but Tennessee ate them up over the middle yesterday.
Yeah.
Really did. In some key spots, Nico was very accurate in the middle of the field. That first deep ball attempt to Thornton was, I want to say that was the worst deep ball I've ever seen a Tennessee quarterback throw.
Yeah.
I
It
think
was off
ever.
by like 25 yards.
I was texting my buddy Swafford about that today. It was like he was 15 yards in and 10 yards short. You know, it's what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I get the call there because you got a turnover, you got momentum, you're trying to hit him in the gut, and he was wide open.
He was, yes, he was.
It was the right call, but you got to make. I mean, goodness gracious, that was horrendous.
But here's what makes it worse. And honestly, it was so off target. I wondered if maybe the wind was blowing or something because it was just so horrendously bad. But you know, when you're a quarterback, you're taught to throw that thing to the outside shoulder. If you miss, you're supposed to miss out of bounds, not in the middle of the field. And he didn't just miss in the middle of the field; he missed 15 yards in.
It was like almost to the hash mark. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of hope for the game at that point in time.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Because you've been there, done that before, Reed.
Yeah, because you knew it, at that point that their whole Vandy's game plan was smart. It's kind of, hey, we're gonna sort of show you a light box, try to bait you into running. We're gonna crash down and try to make Nico beat us, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kudos to the coaching staff. They clearly saw that Vandy struggled with RPO reads, and they were going to bite on run, and they sure did. And we just threw right over the top of them every time. Tony said welcome, Tony. Good to have you, buddy. He said he wants Penn State. I mean, sign me up for that too. I just don't think we're going to be able to play Penn State due to how the rankings are going to end up happening. But I would love to play Penn State. I would love that. I'd rather play Penn State than Ohio State.
I think it's on the table. I think it's on the table if Oregon blows them out.
That's true.
We got to think about what the committee did last year, right? When Georgia lost in the SEC championship game.
That's a good point.
They punished them. They kept them out of the field when they were clearly one of the 4 best teams in the country last season.
Absolutely.
They kept them out. So if they keep doing that and they keep dropping teams like a rock right after a late season loss, which they have done all year, I think there's a great shot. That one of my hopes for Tennessee to solidify a hosting spot is that Oregon beats the brakes off of Penn State.
Yep.
Like he said about Gerald Mincy, there must have been some great hot dogs. Let's see. So Vols Titan has a good. This is a good take, actually. I think it's an unpopular opinion, but Mike Matthews is more gifted receiver than Brew. Matthews should be splitting time with Brew and Squirrel, getting 25 plus snaps a game. Looks fluid and explosive. I mean, it's hard to argue that. The thing that keeps Brew in the field is if you throw it within a 10-mile radius of where he's standing, he's going to catch it.
They need Brew to get healthy in these next 3 weeks for sure, because I trust him with my life. Yeah. I think you've seen even them take deep shots with him, but that they haven't connected on when he's been open. I just think that guy is a valuable weapon for the team. But that's not to negate your opinion on Matthews there, Vols Titan. I really thought we'll get to MVP's player of the game later. I didn't pick Matthews, but he was in the running for me. Just because the wide receiver depth was so ravaged in that game. And he came up huge. He was physical, blocking as well, like you mentioned, and caught some big passes in some big spots for Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that you can say Mike Matthews is more fluid and explosive than Bruin Squirrel. I just think he's a whole lot more healthy. And I think you could throw Dante Thornton in that list as well. When he didn't come out after halftime, like I knew they were limiting his snaps and they were holding him out for certain plays. And honestly, as a defensive coordinator, if you see Dante Thornton come on the field, you should immediately be going, he's about to get the ball. Like he ain't out there to block. And
Too deep coverage right now.
yeah, I mean, it should have been an immediate tell to everybody. If you've scouted Tennessee, it's like, okay, that guy's not healthy. He's running something deep right now. This is one of the 4 plays he's playing today. And for whatever reason, they just didn't know that. But I think Mike is gonna have to play a big part moving forward because I just don't think any of them are healthy.
So we had a couple questions from None Beta and Bobby A about injuries. Here's what I'm going to say about injuries. We have no idea what in the world's going on with anybody on Tennessee's team because Tennessee strategically does not say anything honest about injuries.
Well, there's not going to be any injury reports or anything either, the
Right.
way the media schedule's working out. And really, the biggest ones are Brew, Thornton, Sampson, and Squirrel. And you've got to get some receiver depth back. If you watch the video of Heupel speaking to the team after the game, he emphasized we've got to get healthy these next 3 weeks. He realized it's a big deal, which is concerning. I didn't see or haven't heard anything about anybody being definitively out in 3 weeks. So, that's good.
Squirrel came out in a sling. Hopefully that's precautionary. You just never know.
Well, and I mean, here's the thing. I always go back to when Dante Thornton was limping off the field and Tennessee reported it to the media as an upper body injury. I'm like, he's limping.
Right.
Like, there's no way to know anything about. So for the sake of time, we're going to skip on down. We had a question about Notre Dame, 5 pick sixes this year. That's pretty cool. Miss Carmela said, Vol Report posted that we're hosting Ohio State in Neyland. That is definitely not confirmed at all. So I appreciate
nor will it be confirmed when the new bracket comes out because the bracket's going to change again. So
yeah,
Saturday.
Next Sunday, exactly. Next Sunday in the reveal show, then we'll know.
1 week from today, we will know for sure. It will be cemented in stone.
Absolutely. Evan, welcome, buddy. Evan's an Alabama fan. He's just excited to be back in the playoff right now. Welcome back, Evan. Welcome back. Let's see.
I need to give a shout out to Rustin for before the Georgia game saying absolutely not an elimination game for either team, that there's a lot of football left to be played. And Rustin, hat tip, you were correct.
Yeah, both of y'all nailed it on that one. Both of y'all did. That's a good point. Evan said it'll be interesting to see how they punish championship losses.
They punished them last year. I mean, that's my thing. If you lose, we've long talked about in my family about how back when we had divisions in the SEC and stuff, as far as for bowl games, you don't want to play in the SEC championship game. Like even bowl selection committees punish it. There's a history in college football of when you get beat in a championship game, you get punished for it. You get sent to the Tax Slayer Bowl or wherever, and instead of playing a New Year's Six Bowl. It's happened forever, and if it would be a Tennessee thing for it to not happen this time, but in my entire life, I'm 37 years old, the bowl selections have punished losing a championship game. The College Football Playoff Committee has punished losing championship games. There's a precedent there that is decades long that I don't expect to change. Even though this is kind of a new format, and you've even seen it even with the coaches and the AP poll today. The teams that lost, they tumbled down the rankings, and I think you're going to see that mirrored on Tuesday. But we'll see. A lot of football left to be played.
Absolutely. Sean said, first time in my memorable lifetime we've been in postseason contention. It's the best Christmas gift ever. Amen, brother. Let's see. Herb asked a really good question. Reed, I don't know the answer to this. You might know. Does anyone know if there are practice restrictions like normal bowl practices? I would venture to guess that they can't get more than 15. The question then becomes, will you even get 15 if you lose in the first round?
I don't know the answer to this. I would think it would make more sense to treat it like more of a regular season week for 3 weeks.
Sure.
Because you might have another game after that and another game after that.
Absolutely.
So I don't have an answer to that. That's a great question. I kind of have viewed it as they're just going to keep going, but it might be good for Tennessee to not the way things have how banged up they are right now.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure we can find an answer for that. Herb hadn't thought of that.
Mr. Jones said playoffs make everyone feel better. Absolutely. Mississippi Vol said, I'm just glad we don't have to play this week. Gives us 3 weeks to rest and heal up. Amen, brother. Absolutely. Sam said at the next home game against Kentucky, they just need to go down the sideline and sell hot dogs.
Peanuts, hot dogs.
Elijah, that's what I'm talking about. He said, guy responded to a tweet today that I sent out in July saying we'd be 10-2 with a loss to Georgia, and we dropped one we shouldn't. Guess I was right, but still make the playoffs. That's what I'm talking about. You nailed it, buddy. You nailed it. Let's see. None better said, I don't see the committee putting South Carolina in over Bama. I've always thought they'd figure out a way to weasel Bama back in. 100%.
Or Ole Miss. Like, at some point, head-to-head has to matter.
So, did you all watch? You watched the game. You weren't there Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you watched it. The announcers pulled up the Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina graphic, and you can see very clearly on the graphic that South Carolina lost to Alabama and Ole Miss, and they're talking about South Carolina getting in. And I'm just thinking, like, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's right there on the screen. They lost to both of those teams. How can they jump them? How can they jump them? Like, are they playing better football right now? Probably. Would they?
They've already jumped one of them.
Maybe. But I do not understand how you can, with a straight face, say this team that lost to these two and they have the same record is going to jump them. I don't understand that.
Hey, I 100% agree with you. You're using a lot of common sense and rational thought. But unfortunately, the playoff committee has not been known for that. Because sadly, right now, South Carolina is already ranked higher than Ole Miss.
I did think the rankings last week made a lot of sense, the playoff rankings, but you're right. Right now in the polls, you've got South Carolina at 13, Ole Miss at 15 in the AP poll, and South Carolina at 12 and Ole Miss at 15 in the coaches poll.
Yep, I don't get it either. Well, let's go on to our play of the game. We're going to want to do that next, and y'all can let us know in the comment what your play of the game was. Reed, what was your play of the game?
This one was easy for me. 86-yard touchdown for Thornton to tie it up. I just thought at that point, my own psyche thought, all right, it's tied up. Tennessee's winning this football game. Right back in it. And also, that's just a huge credit. We've talked about Thornton a lot already tonight, but huge credit to him for scoring, because you see a lot of guys make that play and maybe they run out of gas or they run out of bounds or they get caught. He was making sure he was getting in the end zone. And with our offensive struggles at times in the red zone, that was really important, I think, at that point in the game to get in the end zone. And just huge. Mike Matthews, big block to spring it for sure. Really helped. I thought that was the play of the game for me. Changed the whole complexion, the whole feel of the game. You thought, all right, not only back in it, but we're probably favored to win it at that point. And just big play. That's the big plays Tennessee's been missing. And to y'all's point earlier, Nico can throw a dig and in. That was kind of a post route, and he's been money on those. And what a great throw, catch, route, and blocking downfield, and then just afterburners by Thornton.
Absolutely. And to John Tante's credit, He has been dangerously close to dropping the ball before he crosses the goal line twice this season. He did not do that on that touchdown. He was almost through the back of the end zone before he dropped the ball. So I was very glad he did not celebrate a little too early. And I'll give you another one on that one. Nico's throw. That was actually one where the safety did bite and then realized, uh-oh, and he started backing up, and Nico waited until Dante crossed the safety.
Yeah, let him clear the window.
If he had thrown it immediately, it would have been a pick, but he waited for him to cross behind that safety. So kudos to Nico on that, but I agree, Reed, that was a heck of a play. Rustin, what was your play? Go ahead.
Nico was very patient on several big plays.
Mm-hmm.
The touchdown to as a Kitzelman, I felt like he maybe held on to a touch too long,
Mm-hmm.
but it worked. Yeah. I just thought he was very, very patient and poised after that first quarter of that football game.
Totally agree. Rustin, what was your play of the game?
I'm pretty sure if Reed and I sat and watched games together in the same room, that we'd probably complete each other's sentences because I had
become best friends.
Yeah, I had the exact same play for the exact same reason.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so now I'm glad I changed my mind because I was going to do last night. I was sitting there thinking about, all right, so what am I going to do for my play of the game? And immediately that play, because I mean, here's the deal: when you talk about play of the game, obviously you want like a solid, nice, athletic, impressive play, but you also want a play that had a massive impact on the game and changed the momentum of the game, and that play certainly did it. I mean, it checks both of those boxes. But the more I thought about it last night, I was like, no, I got to give it to Jermon McCoy's interception in the end zone, because the way that he had the wherewithal to flip over on his back, find the ball, and catch it. And you know what? I'm going to give a shout out to Will Brooks too, because Will Brooks saw it too, and he dove for it. And kudos to Jermon McCoy for not letting Will Brooks knock it out of his hands, because Will was diving on him to try to catch the ball too. So that was. I mean, listen, if they catch that, it's what, 24-0 at that point. That would be not good.
When y'all watch that, you could tell when he's face down and the ball is here. He turns around so quick with his arms up because he knows that ball is above his back. If you watch that in slow motion, I've never really seen a DB do that. He's on the ground, violent play. Vandy's receiver had his hands on the ball. McCoy breaks it up, and he's on the ground face down and has the wherewithal, knows in the split second that ball is above him, and before he doesn't put his hands up after he turns around. His hands are up as he turns because he knows where that ball is. It was one of the best ball skill plays and just awareness plays I think I've ever seen.
That's a great point.
Was. So it's a great. I mean, you can't go wrong with that call right there.
Well, and you made another really good point that I didn't even think about as I was describing it. The wide receiver had both hands on the football before McCoy did, and he knocked it out of the guy's hands, and then made that ridiculous interception. That's pretty impressive stuff. 20. If they had caught that, it'd have been 21-0. That's right, 21-0 at that point. So just a huge, huge play. Some folks in the comments said their plays of the game. Let's see. Elijah said his was McCoy's pick. Mr. Jones said the field goal that bounced off the crossbar. That's what I'm talking about. That was huge. I didn't think that he was going to get it there because it was a 50-yard field goal and it's cold. I was like, he ain't going to get there. And then he sure did. So I'm glad he did. Let's see.
He's been on a tear lately. I didn't like that call at the time to kick that ball, but it worked out.
Absolutely. Let's see. SEC football said my play of the game was when I took Tennessee plus 180 on the money line when they were down. That's pretty good. Jonathan said play of the game was McCoy's pick. Jeff said, I agree on the second touchdown of Thornton, but the field goal by Gilbert was huge too. Yep. Kevin said McCoy's interception was the key for the shift in momentum, in his opinion. Rhonda said the interception and the safety. That's a great point, Rhonda. That safety, that was a nice play.
Safety ended the game effectively. That was it. The game was over.
You're exactly right.
I do want to say something I forgot to mention about Thornton's. That was the longest pass play since 2003 for Tennessee.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So when Casey Clausen hooked up with Mark Jones on a 90-yard touchdown against Georgia.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a good stat right there. Mino Aggie said Thornton's touchdown was pivotal. Yep. Let's see. Some Boot Carter conversations happening in the comments. Robert said McCoy's interception. Jeff said if Nico can get sharper on the D ball in anticipation, throwing guys open, he'll be deadly. Mino Aggie said Pavia is the Zach Edey of college football. Can't touch him, can't sack him. None better said play of the game was McCoy's interception. Mino Aggie said Dramont is impressive. We showed that our depth is dangerous. Mr. Jones said it was like a Matrix move that he did when he turned over and caught the ball.
He's made two of the best interceptions that I've seen in my 37 years of watching Tennessee football this year. It's that one in the end zone against Alabama was just a freak move. Reminded me of Deion Grant back in '98.
Yeah.
And then just somehow sailing, one-handing, intercepting it, and then the one yesterday, just NFL level plays, both of those for sure.
Absolutely. Elijah let me know that it would have been 24-7 had they caught that ball in the end zone. Thank you, Elijah. Bill said his pick for best play was Joshua Joseph's sack. Mino Aggie said she did not like the horse collar call. I agree, because it wasn't a horse collar. Let's see. Greenwave said Jackson Ross punt to set up the safety shouldn't be overlooked. I agree. He is a weapon. None better said nothing more exciting than safety when you're at the game in person and kneeling. That's a great point. Herb asked a question about the playoff. We're going to be talking about that here in just a second. So Albert asked a good question. Welcome, Albert. Good to have you. He said, when was the last time an opposing team ran back a kickoff against the Vols? It has not been since Heupel took over. I can guarantee that, because I think that's the first one in what's his name? Special teams outside linebacker.
Eckler.
Mike Eckler. Yeah. It's the first time in Mike Eckler's tenure that's happened, I believe.
Tennessee has led the ranked near the top of the conference since Eckler got here in both punt return yards allowed and kick return yards allowed. So that was definitely out of character.
Miss Carmela said play of the game is when the Candy player chirped to Nico after his touchdown pass, put a fire in Nico. Elijah said roughing the passer was the softest call I've ever seen. Yeah, for sure. How's he supposed to know that that Pavia has thrown the ball at that point?
I don't. It's because he's five. I'm telling you, it's because he's 5'4" that it's anytime you hit him, it looks bad, and so they throw the flag. It's it. He's not trying to make it look bad. He's just not a big human being, and when you get somebody like Joseph's or whoever flying in there, these 5-star type athletes, it looks violent and it looks like a roughing the passer, but they're just tackling a small dude. Like I don't understand how the officials haven't corrected for that as the season goes along. If hit me, they would flag them.
I loved Bill Lamagne's explanation during the game when they brought him in to see what he thought it was, and he was like, 10 years ago, it's just a good tackle. Now it's a roughing the passer. Essentially saying, yeah, we just gotten soft. Like it's not roughing the passer.
Yeah, right. There were so many big stops that Tennessee made, third downs where you have to hit him because he doesn't throw the ball either. He's going to run it or tuck it, and you have to hit him when he's scrambling. I think it was well into the second half that he had, I think, 4 completions, something like that. So you have to hit him, and their best offense was the flag.
Yes.
It really was.
Vols Titans said for years we haven't seen DBs turn their heads, seen more from McCoy and Gibson combined in 5 years. Yep, that's a fair point, actually.
Well, also, I hate to I guess maybe I'm Rustin's brother. I don't know, but he last year he was chanting Ricky Gibson's name every time I came on the show last season, and that aged very well, very well, because he's been great for Tennessee this year, exceeded my expectations for sure, and Rustin called it. So hat tip again. I might start wearing a hat.
Now the one I'm screaming this year is Jacoby Thomas. That dude needs to be on the field as much as humanly possible. It drives me nuts when we go 2 or 3 series and he doesn't step on the field. The guy's just a playmaker.
He's like a heat-seeking missile, man. He's just unreal. Jonathan said, I have no idea why QBs keep throwing at McCoy, but it works for us most of the time. Amen. Absolutely.
Well, you saw the Georgia, not to turn the mood sour, but Georgia game, they picked on safeties and linebackers. That was their whole game plan.
Yep.
We're not throwing at the DBs. Because they're the best cover guys on the field. We're gonna pick on the safeties and the linebackers, and they were able to do it, and it worked.
Big Orange Dub said Darrell Taylor versus Alabama when they had the unnecessary roughness when he just essentially stood up off of Bryce Young. He said that was the softest call I've ever seen, but Joseph's was a close second. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. All right. Well, let's go to I apologize. I can't hit all the comments. I'm trying to hit as many as I can. To the 675 people watching across all 3 platforms, we appreciate you very much. Let's go to our player of the game, and you guys let us know in the comments your player of the game. Reed, lead us off. Who's your player of the game?
Well, it's going to mirror my play of the game. I'm going to go with Thornton, who just, even though he's banged up, the wide receiver core desperately needed some big plays. Tennessee, especially once they gave up that kickoff return and got down 14-zip, they needed some big plays, and he made them for Tennessee. And I think changed the whole complexion and momentum of the game. I did think about Mike Matthews, just because I thought he came in and really added a lot. Brazel had a great game. Just some underutilized receivers, I think, for Tennessee had a huge day Saturday. So I was going to go receiving core because you're going to have to throw the ball and make some big plays to get back into that football game the way it started. So it was Thornton for me. I think they got to get him healthy. He's been really, if he could stay on the field, he's an electric playmaker that I still think his best football's ahead of him.
I think that's a great pick. Rustin, what about you?
544 yards of total offense, 281 yards on the ground, no sacks, only 2 tackles for loss. I thought the offensive line had their best game of the year. If I had to pick one of them, I would pick Andre Carrick. I thought he was outstanding. But I thought overall the entire offensive line, including the bench depth, Dane Davis, Jackson Lampley, thought they all came to play and played their tails off. Would have liked to have seen John Campbell not lose his mind on that one play. But, for those who were asking about that, he's protecting a teammate. And I can't fault him for that. And if you watch, players and coaches are trying to get him under control and they're pulling him away. But if you watch closely, nobody's getting onto him because that dude absolutely cheap-shotted Squirrel. He saw him cheap-shot him, and he went after him. And I don't fault him for that. Honestly, I wish a couple more had because that dude needed to be handled for what he did in that play. So, love the aggression. Wish he had controlled it a little more and not gotten so out of hand after it happened. Just go take the shot, take your penalty, and let them know you're not going to tolerate it. But love the way the entire offensive line played. I don't think they could have played better.
It was Evan. We're talking about that first play in the fourth quarter. where I think they handed off to Bishop, and they needed a couple yards, and the whole offensive line pushed the entirety of Andy's team 6 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And the first couple of drives, they didn't really look like that, and then they took over that game, and they were getting such a push, to your point, Russ, and then that's a great pick. That's a great pick because they controlled that game, and when they started doing that, you just knew Tennessee wasn't losing.
Absolutely. Great point. Well, so really, so I love this because all three of us had different choices. And, in my opinion, you could make an easy case for Nico to be player of the game. Arguably, maybe his best performance as of all. Like that was a huge game from him. And he had as much time as he did and was able to stand there because he was protected. So people made plays for him like Dante Thornton, like Mike Matthews. Apparently I can't talk. So I could have picked Nico for sure. But when you when you set your career high for rushing yards and you break Tennessee's,
you've got to pick him because you said in the preview show he wasn't going to break the record.
That's true. I'm eating crow. Somebody asked the question. They said, "Is he going to break the record this week?" And I went, "Nah," because previously his highest rushing performance was 154 yards, and he would have to get more than that to break the record. And I was like, I just don't see it happening.
He didn't just break it; he broke it by 20.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal performance. People, I tweeted this out yesterday, I think it was. People talk about Heupel's offense being a gimmick offense and an air raid offense. Well, their running back just broke the single season rushing yards and rushing touchdowns record for the university. I think it's just a good offense.
On an offense that is not Heupel's most prolific either.
Right.
Like
exactly.
That's even, I think, makes it crazy. It's not like Tennessee's putting up 50, 60 points like they were regularly in 2021, 2022. He's been able to do that in the framework of an offense that's playing more control and relying on the defense. Nico and Samson, both good picks. But so if you're going Samson, breaking Travis Stevens' record, which was set in what year?
Hang on, I got it. Hang on.
2003. No.
I'm gonna say 2001.
I think it was 2001 off the top of my head, which is the last time Tennessee was a few quarters away from playing for a national championship.
Yep.
Because 2000, I think, would have been Travis Henry. And then 2001, I think, was Travis Stevens.
Yeah, that's
because that's when he went to the swamp and ran all over Florida.
Yep.
After the game that was moved to December, it was Spurrier's last game there.
Yep.
And it's moved to December. That was 2001. So there you go. That was the last time Tennessee was in the national championship picture and just a few quarters away from it. So maybe good defense and running the football gets you some places, even in the year of our Lord 2024.
Even in this modern air raid offense, it still works running the ball.
Right. I just thought, when I saw him break that record, I thought, 2001, the last time I really felt like Tennessee was a national championship contender.
Absolutely. No one will bring up Matt Mock, though, from LSU.
No backup quarterbacks in the playoffs. No backup
quarterbacks. That's right. Mina, like he said, she wants to see more of Jacoby Thomas as well. Mr. Jones said his player of the game was Nico. SEC Football said Nico. Elijah said Thornton or Nico. Greg said Nico. Rhonda said she likes Reed's pick. I agree. I did too. Robert said Dylan Sampson running the ball. Dustin, welcome, buddy. He said Nico. He had big runs and played his best game at quarterback other than the deep shot in cold weather, fresh off the bench. Albert said,
I think that was Nico's best game, right?
I agree.
Like, given the stakes, the road, you're down 14 points, just
exactly.
all the things surrounding it, and in a place that has been tough to play this year. I thought that was his best game, and I really think he's played a lot of pretty good football the last few
Yep.
weeks. Maybe Tennessee's offense is peaking at the right time.
Totally agree. And you're exactly right. I mean, everything that he did happened after they were already down 14 points on the road in a game you have to win to get in the playoff. So all the pressure is clearly on them at that point. And they responded well. Nico responded really well. You're exactly right.
Their backs against the wall. They have been
Mm-hmm.
the best this year. You saw it against Bama. You saw it yesterday. Even starting slow and terrible against UTEP, and then they just blew them out. I just think that some of the things this team does reminds me of last year's basketball team, honestly, because whenever you counted them out, whenever you thought, oh no, they're not going to go beat insert whoever, Auburn on the road to basically cement an SEC championship, or South Carolina on the road to cement an SEC championship, they went and did it.
Absolutely.
They answered the bell time and time again, and this football team has a little bit of that to them, where they've answered the bell when they've had to, and it's a good time. It's a good time. I think it's like March Madness a little bit. You want to be peaking now. You don't want to be peaking in September like maybe Alabama did, or you want to be peaking now. And I think Tennessee, if they can get healthy, might be peaking right at the right time.
Absolutely. Albert's player of the game was Dante Thornton. Tony's was Dylan Sampson. Minolaki said Dylan Sampson. Mr. Jones said Nico. Let's see. None Betta said our weakness has been covering tight ends and running backs in the throw game. Plus, I really hate when we get ahead and just sit back in soft zone, stay in man, and keep your foot on their throats. Herb said Nico. Hopefully, this is preview of him and wide receivers moving forward. Defense is going to keep us in the game. That's exactly right. Jonathan said Dante was his player of the game. Second choice would be offensive line. Kevin said Nico looked more mature in decision making and more relaxed. Let's see. Some folks weren't happy with the cheap shot on Squirrel. I agree. Andrew said, I agree, Rustin. The offensive line gave Nico more time than any game of this year. Let's see. When I said that I'm going to eat crow on Dylan Sampson, Rhonda said, that's some good taste in crow. That's right. That's right. Kevin he said he didn't have a crow emoji, so he just did an eagle. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, when I said he wasn't going to break the record, I meant to say he was going to shatter the record. That's what I meant to say. Dustin said Dylan Sampson carried Nico through his rough games.
Yep.
Let's see. Big Orange Dub said he was at the SEC championship game in 01 versus LSU. I think that's where I contracted my battered ball syndrome.
I was also there. And my life has not been the same since. Not to be dramatic. We already had the hotel booked in Pasadena for the Rose Bowl, and we're going to take a big family trip out there and go. And then you're dominating them at the half, and then everybody else knows the rest of the story. I remember we got in the elevator in Atlanta, wherever we were staying, and some of the workers from the hotel were in the elevator with us, and they're like, "What? Why y'all look so sad? Y'all whooped them." Like, because they, I guess, were working and just saw the halftime score, and
oh man,
and it's like, no, they weren't trolling us. This was like pre-trolling, like it was 2001. We weren't a mean society back then, and we were like, no, we did not win. We did not win the game. I almost got diabetes that game because I was stress eating those like frozen lemon ice things. I think I had like 7 or 8. I had enough sugar to like kill an elephant that day. Just yeah.
Hey, those things are good though. To your credit, those are good.
I think I ate the rest of them that they had there. But oh man, it was that is. The South Carolina loss in 2022, but for me, you were 1 half away with the lead against the backup quarterback for playing for a national championship.
Yep.
And I am never going to get over it.
When you said that just then about the eating all that they had there, reminded me of, I don't know if you watch Parks and Rec, but Ron Swanson, and he's like, "Wait, I'm afraid what you heard was give me a lot of frozen lemonade ice. What I said was give me all the frozen lemonade ice you have."
I couldn't stop. I spent all my lawn mowing money on frozen lemonade ice.
Greg just posted a comment: "Lemon ice things do not cure batter ball syndrome."
That is probably where it started for me. I think I've had a case since 2001, for sure, and it's not really been treatable. I don't know.
Kyle said this was Nico's best game yet. We agree, absolutely. So some folks are asking about, if we host, that kind of thing. So I have one short question, and then we're going to get to what's going to happen with the playoff. I have a feeling that conversation is probably going to take at least 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm gonna ask this one question, and I think it's a good question, because I think this kind of is is this the standard moving forward? But the question I'm posing to Rustin and to Reed, you can answer first. We don't know what's going to happen in the playoff. We know they're going to be in the playoff. We don't know what could happen. They could go gangbusters and make a huge run, which would be awesome. They could, hopefully not, but potentially lay an egg in the first round. I hope they don't. But no matter what happens the weekend of December 19th and 20th and beyond, no matter what happens, was the 2024 season considered a success because they made it to the college football playoff? And do you think that's the standard, like a benchmark of successful or not successful season from this point forward?
Yes. I think it's a success when you make the playoffs. And now that may change, that may change as the program grows and the roster grows and the coaching staff grows. I think this is a staff that if I had one critique, it would be, do they know how to be the top dog? Can they coach like they're the top dog? Can they be aggressive against the Georgias on the road on both sides? Can they be a favorite and still play their game? That's the one area I think this staff and this team needs to grow, and this program needs to grow. But for right now, this program, even if you look historically at Tennessee is not a top 5 program in college football perennially over the course of college football. It's not. This is a top 10 to 15 type football program traditionally. And so when you can make it into the 12-team playoff, which Tennessee, if in the current format, would have done 2 of the last 3 years, and would have hosted a game in 2022. Hopefully, we'll get to it. We'll host a game this year. I think that's absolutely a success. Absolutely a success for Tennessee, and especially given the stat that one of the commenters put up earlier. Tennessee was a 500 football team, basically from post-Fulmer to 2020. This season is absolutely a success, no matter what happens in the playoff for me. And I think that's the standard. You want to. I'm not saying you have to make it every year, but you want to be in the hunt for Tennessee right now. And again, maybe 2 or 3 years that changes to where you need to buy or you need to win the SEC, which I think may be harder than winning the playoff. But all that to say, right now, absolutely. Next year, yes. Year after that, probably still yes. When you make the 12-team field and you've got a shot, it's a successful season. And that's what every program in America is going to want to do. They're going to be want to shoot for one of those 12 spots in the college football playoff. And Tennessee's got one. I don't take it for granted. I know some of the stuff this season didn't go like everybody wanted, but you're in the playoff, the first one ever for 12 teams. Celebrate it, period.
Amen. 100% agree with everything you just said. Absolutely. Rustin, what about you? Is this season a success?
Yeah, I would just echo everything Reed just said and add one thing. There's only 3 teams in the SEC with at least 10 wins: Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee. If you had told me at the beginning of the year the only 3 teams in the SEC with 10 wins would be Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee, I would have said, I'll take that every day of the week.
I think that's a great point.
That's a great stat. I mean, that's a great stat right there. Programs with more stability coaching wise and resources than Tennessee as well.
So, Rita, you said one thing that I hadn't yet thought of, and I'm glad you said it. I totally agree. This season is a success. All you want is a shot at the national championship. That's it. You just get in. Just get it. Have a shot at it. And you made a great point. There's 113 teams in football bowl subdivision who want to be one of the 12, and Tennessee's one of the 12. I mean, like that is a huge deal. And what Reed mentioned, I agree. This is the standard. And I love what Reed said. It could get higher. The standard could get higher in 3-4 years down the road. And that you want to be one of those top 4 with a bye, which means you're winning the conference championship. Unless the playoff format changes, which hopefully it does if you're watching Ward Manual.
It'll change in 2026.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree because this is it's a disaster the way they got it going right now. So yes, in my opinion, if you're in the playoff at the end of the year, it's a successful season. Bottom line, totally agree. A lot of people agree in the comments as well. None better said yes, it's a success. Evan, speaking about Alabama football, said football is now basketball at Alabama. Let's see. Robert said, I believe we can beat every team in the playoffs. And because of our defense, yes, we can. They will give us a chance in every game. If we hit a couple deep shots each game, then yeah, we will win. We will. Sam said if we play Ohio State, it should be in Neyland. That's our next topic.
Tennessee is 10th all time in wins for Division I football programs. So, this is where Tennessee should be, in my opinion. And Tennessee was 6th in both polls today, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you don't call that a success, given recent history and all-time program history, then I don't know what you're doing.
Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M would really like to be number 6 in the country right now.
Amen. That's a good point. Fantastic point. None better said, considering the past 15-ish years, it's definitely a success. He said, we have to remember where we were before Coach Josh Heupel, before we became very critical. Absolutely. Great point. Great point. Like he said, did you see Tony doing the push-ups with the cheerleaders? I did. Let's see. Kyle said he's excited to see the Oregon Penn State game. Big Orange Dove said how far this program has come. And being in the playoff is even debated as being a great year. So thankful for this coaching staff. Absolutely.
The whole time Tony was doing push-ups with the cheerleaders, all I could think was, okay, because Tim Corbin was at the game too. All I could think was, okay, which Vanderbilt high-level recruit is at the game and Tony's about to go poaching?
Yeah.
That was 100% about being visible to somebody. Who was that intended for?
Absolutely. Sam said it's very difficult to get 10 wins in the SEC. I don't see SEC members being for a 9th conference game. Amen. Totally agree. Let's see here. Dustin said we're 5 points and a couple bad calls in Athens away from a perfect season. And Nico's first year starting. Ain't been perfect, but here we are. Let's live it and love it. Absolutely. Kyle said he thinks Indiana will be exposed in the playoff.
I would love to play Indiana in the playoff.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would play them,
and that's possible
if we could. I don't care where we play Indiana. I would love to play Indiana.
Yep.
Yes, and that is certainly a possibility.
That's who I think will be hosting. I think unless Penn State gets blown away by Oregon, I think we'll be hosting Indiana.
Then we will win that football game.
Rhonda said the team standard is finally the university standards finally lining up with the fan standard for the team as well. That's a good point. Hey, Danny White's got high standards for sure. Kevin made a great point here. He said, at one point we wanted to beat Florida with any consistency. Then it was Alabama. Now some folks are satisfied with 10-2. I'd love 12-0, but I'm thrilled with our progress. I mean, absolutely, for sure. Let's see. We got baseball comments now.
It's almost baseball season. It is. It's almost baseball season.
Yep.
Jonathan said he thinks they threw the Arkansas game so he wouldn't have to play the SEC championship. Let's see. All right, so let's get to it. Before we say anything about the playoff rankings and where we might be, this needs to be shown on the screen. So here's the deal. Last Sunday night, we were talking about what would happen. And listen, I am 100% aware that the playoff is not based off the AP poll. I get that. I totally understand that. But the AP poll comes out on Sunday. The playoff poll comes out on Tuesdays. And I said last Sunday, I would be shocked if the playoff committee doesn't at least look at the AP poll, because they have 48 hours to do so, to look at it before they announce their poll. I said I would be shocked if they didn't actually look at it. Well, this right here proves that they look at the AP poll. They have to, because what you see on the left side of the screen is last Sunday's AP poll. What you see on the right side of the screen is the playoff rankings that came out 2 days later. They are almost identical. Numbers 1 through 5 were the exact same. 6, 7, and 8 are the same teams. They're just in different order. 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all the exact same. And then 14, 15, 16 are the same teams, just in a different order. So both polls had the same exact 16 teams. 10 of them were ranked identically in both polls. So clearly, the AP poll, it's not the one it's based off of. I get that. But clearly, it is at least a credible indicator of what we can expect to see Tuesday night. Can we all agree on that before we keep going?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, for now, exactly.
Until they blow the whole thing up.
Exactly. So, with that being said, knowing that the AP poll at least gives us an indication of what we can expect to see Tuesday night, this is the AP poll released today, and based on that AP poll, what the college football playoff would look like today. Oregon would get the number 1 spot because, assuming they beat Penn State, they'd be the Big Ten champion. Texas would be number 2, assuming they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, which that is a big assumption. SMU would jump if they beat Clemson. SMU would jump from number 8 all the way up to number 3. They would leapfrog 5 teams, 5 teams to get all the way up to number 3. Boise State would jump from number 10 all the way up to number 4. And then the last champion, conference champion that would get in would be Arizona State, because Arizona State plays Iowa State for the Big 12 championship. So let's just look at just that one thing right there real quick before we go any further. It is 100% possible if Iowa State beats Arizona State this weekend, the number 16 team is going to get in the playoff over a whole bunch more deserving teams. Here's another wild one.
Clemson.
If Clemson beats SMU, the number 18 team would jump from number 18 all the way up to number 12. And here's another wild one. UNLV. If UNLV beats Boise State this weekend, the number 19 team will jump from number 19 all the way up to number 12. So a lot of stuff can still happen this weekend. A whole lot of stuff.
Now, for those of you looking at this and going, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Here's why this bracket will never happen. Ohio State, Tennessee. If Ohio State were to win that, they would then move to Oregon and have a Big Ten, what should have been the Big Ten championship matchup. They're not going to let that happen. If Georgia beats Indiana, they move to play Texas, and in round 2, we get a rematch of the SEC championship.
Third meeting this year.
Third time they've played each other. They're not going to let that happen. And so
agreed. Totally
the way this is laid out right now, that committee won't let any of this happen the way it's laid out.
Here's Rustin, based on what you just said about the potential third game between Georgia and Texas, here's what if I were a member on the committee, what I'm guessing that they want to happen. The committee wants Texas to beat Georgia Saturday so that they can at least, at minimum, flip-flop Georgia and Tennessee, which that would not be outlandish. People say, well, Georgia beat Tennessee head-to-head. Well, yeah, Tennessee also beat Alabama head-to-head 2 years ago, and Alabama was ranked higher than them at the end of the season. So if they do that, they can flip. If Texas beats Georgia, they can flip-flop Georgia and Tennessee, and then Georgia would have to play that 8 spot against whoever the 9-seeded team is, and then Tennessee would be that 7 seed hosting whoever the 10 seed ends up being.
Probably Indiana.
Yep.
But,
because Indiana won't move. Like they don't play this week, and they're not going to move. Alabama's not going to move. Alabama's in the tournament at this point. They're in. Indiana is in. Ohio State is in. Tennessee is in. Georgia is in. Notre Dame is in. Penn State
Oregon
is in.
Oregon is in. Yeah.
Oregon is in. Absolutely.
And what a bracket this would be for Alabama, getting to play Notre Dame and SMU.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it's interesting to think about. So if Clemson wins, what that does to the bracket. There's a lot of the biggest things. There's a lot of, I think, interesting things just as a fan of college football to like watch for this week. But the biggest thing that I'm looking for as a Tennessee fan who wants a home playoff game in Neyland is what happens Tuesday night with Ohio State. Is Tennessee ahead of Ohio State? Because neither one of those teams play another game, right? And if Tennessee is ahead of Ohio State, like they are in the AP poll and the coaches poll, then Tennessee has a great shot at hosting, no matter what happens Saturday. Tennessee has a great shot at hosting. And then second to that would be Saturday, hoping that Oregon beats the brakes off of Penn State. That would be number 2. But the biggest things I'm watching for are, is Tennessee ahead of Ohio State like they are in the polls and the CFB rankings Tuesday night? And then secondly, can Oregon beat the brakes off Penn State and maybe have them drop below Tennessee as well? And then third would be, if Texas beats Georgia, I think Tennessee is going to be ahead of Georgia as well. So those are sort of my top 3 things as a Vol fan that I'm watching for.
Absolutely. You know, honestly, when you look at this poll, the team who has to absolutely love where they are sitting in this poll right now is Notre Dame. Because right now, Notre Dame, they're not gonna be any lower than 4th in the final rankings, which means that they're probably going to move up to 3, honestly. But let's assume they stay at 4. And for let's say Penn State, Oregon ends up being a super close game, and which it won't. But let's say it ends up being a close game, and Penn State stays at number 3. Well, Notre Dame would then be sitting at number 6. Their first round matchup would be more difficult, but they get to host it than their second round matchup against SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that somehow, which personally I think this is what's going to happen. I think after the playoff, or not the playoff, but after the conference championship weekend happens, I think Notre Dame is going to move up to third in the rankings, because whoever loses the Big 12 championship, especially if it's Penn State, will drop below Notre Dame. If that happens, Notre Dame has sealed up the 5 spot, which that means they would then get to host the Big 12 champion. So there's a win. And then they would get to play either Boise State or, depending on how it plays out, if UNLV upsets Boise State and Clemson upsets SMU, then they would be playing Clemson.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame, Clemson. So Notre Dame, honestly, if you're a Notre Dame fan out there watching this, you got to be tickled pink looking at this bracket, because you are sitting pretty. I agree with Reed. It is going to be very interesting to see where Ohio State is ranked Tuesday night. I'm concerned that Ohio State will be ranked 1 spot ahead of Tennessee. And I think that the way they would justify that is they would say they've only had 2 losses, just like Tennessee, and one of their losses was a 1-point loss on the road at the number 1 team in the country. So they had a better loss than Tennessee had. You could also say they also have a really strong win over the number 3 team in the country in Penn State. And so I'm afraid that because of those 2 things, Ohio State will be ranked 1 spot ahead of Tennessee.
There's a good chance Tuesday that Tennessee is still not on the hosting line. And so that's when you go down the list of saying, all right, well, if Texas beats Georgia, that should get Tennessee in the hosting line. If Georgia beats Texas, it could get Tennessee in the hosting line. There's a chance that no matter what, there's a chance that no matter what happens in the SEC championship game, Tennessee jumps one of those teams. And then obviously if Penn State gets destroyed by Oregon, then Tennessee has a great chance to get in the hosting line. So there's like a myriad of things that can go Tennessee's way this coming week to host a football game in Neyland for the playoff, probably on the 21st of December on a Saturday. So if I had to wager on that, I would say that one of those things happens. But Saturday might not actually matter for Tennessee if they're already in the hosting line Tuesday.
You're exactly right. It won't. You're exactly right. Yeah. The case for Tennessee being ranked 1 spot ahead of Ohio State is that Tennessee, I just totally blanked on what I was going to say. Well, one of them is what Rustin said earlier, that Ward Manuel, the AD at Michigan, is the head of the committee. And he might want to not be fans of Ohio State when he is in the room there, but I can't remember what it was.
That was a very bad loss for them Saturday.
It was.
I mean, Michigan
they were 21-point favorites.
Exactly. Michigan's been a toothless team all year. Toothless team, and they lost to them at home. In the last week of the season.
21-point favorites at home with the largest NIL budget in the country.
Well, and I remembered what I was going to say. That the case that you could make for Tennessee being ranked 1 spot ahead of them is that Tennessee was number 6 today in both the coaches and the AP poll.
Right.
Somebody was talking about, are there any suspensions out of that Ohio State-Michigan game? Will, who is an Ohio State fan, said both schools were fined $100,000, no suspensions. Yep, that makes sense. I understand. It doesn't make sense, but I get why that happened. So Tuesday night, all eyes need to be on where is Ohio State ranked. because that will have a direct impact on if Tennessee, first of all, gets to host a game, and secondly, who they're going to be playing. But I do think Rustin is exactly right. There is no way the committee wants to have Georgia playing Texas in the second round for the third time this season. They do not want that. So I agree with him. Whoever loses that game, listen, whoever wins the game will be the 2 seed. That's for sure. Unless,
as long as Oregon wins, yeah.
Exactly. Unless Penn State somehow beats Oregon and Texas beats Georgia, then Texas would be the 1, Penn State would be the 2. In which case Tennessee would probably stick at number 8 so that they play Texas. But if Oregon beats,
I wouldn't say that. If Texas beats Georgia, Georgia's going to plummet. They would then be a 3-loss team, and they're going to drop. They're going to be down there. They're going to be 10 or 11.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm all for that. If Penn State then beats Oregon, because then the 2 seed would be Penn State. And so sign me up for the 7 spot hosting a game against somebody like Indiana. Well, it would be Indiana. Like Indiana is pretty much locked in at the 10 spot because based on the conference champions, based on who else has to play, I don't think they're going to drop the loser of the Big Ten or SEC championship games below Indiana. I don't think that's going to happen. So Indiana is pretty much guaranteed the 10 spot. Alabama's pretty much guaranteed the 11 spot. So sign me up for Texas beating Georgia and Tennessee moving up to number 7. And then we get to host Indiana, and sign me up for Penn State beating Oregon, because then we would host Indiana first round, and then we would play Penn State in a neutral site in the second round. Sign me up for that. That is what I would love to see. So go Nittany Lions and go Longhorns. That's what I'm saying this weekend.
There's just so many. There's so many scenarios that like these teams are going to lose that are ahead of Tennessee. They have to. It's just math. And the way the committee has dealt with this in the past is they punish those teams that lose. They punish losses. Which I can't remember who commented earlier. You don't go to a 9-game conference schedule. You don't want your conference to have more losses.
Right.
Amen.
Now, the way currently that the college football playoff is structured and the committee selects teams, don't play a harder schedule. You're not rewarded for it. You might be rewarded at the very top, 1, 2, 3 seeds, something like that. But you're not going to be rewarded for it. We've already seen that. So it's fruitless, and they're going to hammer these teams for losing next weekend. If I had to bet,
you're exactly right. And we've seen it happen many, many times. You're exactly right. Some of the comments that came through, None Betta said, "You guys are my favorite channel. It's refreshing to see hosts that actually talk to their watchers in real discussion. For one, really enjoy your content, guys. Just wanted to say that. Hey, we appreciate that so much. Thank you. You're very kind. We really, really appreciate that." Jared said that he thinks we end up, welcome, Jared. Good to have you, buddy. He said he thinks we end up as the 7th seed versus Indiana as the 10th. The more I look at this, I really do think that Indiana and Alabama are locked in as the 10 and 11 seeds because they don't have the room to move up really. And they're not going to fall because they don't play. So I really think they're locked in as the 10 and 11. It's the 3, 4, and 12 seeds that are honestly the most up in the air, because those 3 seeds, 3, 4, and 12, will be based off of the ACC champion, the Mountain West champion. That's so bizarre to say, and the Big 12 champion. What were you saying there, Reed?
Yeah, no, just that that's what you're going to see change. I think in 2026 is how they handle the auto bids and the buys, and I think you'll see that change, and maybe even expansion. But I definitely think you're going to see the auto bids change coming up. But that really this year doesn't really affect Tennessee a ton. You have to you're talking about liking where you are, even if you're Alabama or Indiana, which you do because you're in. You have to really like where you are. If you're listening to this, you have to like where you are if you're Tennessee. You're firmly in the field. And
Yes.
we've talked about all these different scenarios where Tennessee is hosting, including Tuesday night when they release the rankings, without anybody else losing a football game. And you're not going to lose. So those are all – you can't lose. You might already be hosting Tuesday. And if any of these other teams lose, you might jump them anyway. But just it's a very good spot to be if you're a Tennessee fan. So just get your popcorn, enjoy some football this weekend, and get ready for a playoff game, and hopefully in Neyland.
Do you all think it's safe to say, based on what we're looking at here, that Tennessee is at worst the 9 seed and at best the 7 seed? Is that safe to say?
I don't think they drop below 9.
I agree. I don't think they go below 9.
I wouldn't even go that far. I don't think they go below 8. I think we are 100% hosting.
I like this energy from Rustin. I like it.
I hope you're right. That's all I'm saying. Kyle said he thinks the committee screws us. We've been there, done that, right, Kyle? He said somehow they'll have us going to Columbus.
And that right there is why they won't. Because I don't think you all understand the hatred that exists between Ward Manuel and Ohio State. If he has an opportunity to punish Ohio State, he will 100% do it.
Evan said that's a good draw for his Crimson Tide there. Yep, for sure. For sure. Dustin said, does the Big Ten bias hold up this week with Ohio State loss and Penn State dominance? Well, time will tell. Time will tell. Oregon, Penn State's going to be a very interesting game to watch.
And just look at the comment that just came in from the one Ohio State fan on here. He understands what I'm talking about.
Right.
He knows.
No, it's going to be. I think the voters and the coaches and AP poll recognize that that was a really bad loss. And I think that the committee might punish them even more than the voters did.
It's a really bad loss, and then you immediately got in a fight with the committee chair's school.
It would be
that's a fair point.
Tennessee losing in Neyland to Vandy Saturday. That's kind of they're kind of similar teams this year, really. And
Tennessee was only 11-point favorites. Ohio State was 21-point favorites.
It's just who knows? Again, BBS since 2001, but I think Tennessee Tuesday has a great shot to be ahead of Ohio State and hosting a playoff game.
And like y'all said, if that happens, then it's probably guaranteed at that point because they're not going to fall because they don't play again. So if they're ranked ahead of Ohio State on Tuesday, then they're hosting. That would be my take on it. Let's see here.
You're already counting on the ACC champ being ahead of you. If Clemson beats SMU, they'll be ahead of you. If SMU beats Clemson, they'll be ahead of you. They're not both going to jump you. Basically, is my point. Like Miami's out. Miami is out. That is good for Tennessee.
Yep.
That was a Syracuse did Tennessee a favor. Again, great shot that if Georgia loses to Texas, that they drop below Tennessee. A good shot if Texas loses to Georgia, they drop below Tennessee. There's just so many things that can go Tennessee's way to host a playoff game in Neyland.
So the only way Alabama doesn't get in is if Iowa State. No, it'd have to be Clemson.
You need a business deal.
SMU, does SMU then fall out of the playoff, which I think they do?
Yeah.
Or do they keep Alabama, or they knock Alabama out and slide everybody down one and let Clemson be right in front of, SMU?
SMU is 9 or is 9 currently in the playoff ranking. before Tuesday, if they lose, they're getting dropped out.
It's
I agree,
also
totally.
SMU. If you have to pick one last team to be in the playoff, you're going to pick the team that brings the most money.
Yep, money. I totally agree. So do we all agree? Because this was my take. Do y'all agree? The ACC, the Big 12, and the Mountain West, they all get one team in the playoff.
That's
The
yes,
ACC,
yes,
Big 12, and Mountain West.
yes.
Yeah.
ACC is not a too bid. It's not a too bid league,
I agree.
especially since
Totally
Miami
agree.
lost. You could see a scenario maybe where Miami wins and a loser of the ACC championship game gets in potentially, but now that they're out, that really, I think, really helps.
Mm-hmm. Mina Leggy said she agreed with None Better. This is the only show that she makes a point of watching the best. Hey, we appreciate that, Mina Leggy. Thank you so much. You're very kind. Rhonda said she's watched the show a long time before she started commenting. People who commented made it feel like a family. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. I love that. I'm glad. That is exactly what we hope for. Absolutely. Mr. Jones made a great point. He said, "How did Georgia fall from number 3 to 13 after one loss, but Ohio State only fell to number 7?"
And then lost
That's
at
fair.
home.
Yeah.
Right.
Kyle said he doesn't want to see a 3-loss team in the playoff, no matter what conference they're from. I don't know. I think a 3-loss Alabama is better than a 1 or 2-loss SMU personally.
Could be a 3-loss Georgia.
Yeah, it could be a 3-loss Georgia. I
Clemson,
think if
Clemson wins Saturday, they're in with 3.
Yep, that's exactly your fantastic point. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: if you put Georgia or Alabama on a neutral site against Indiana, I think we're all picking either Georgia or Alabama in that one.
Yeah.
Dustin said, "I think Iowa State wins. Clemson beats SMU. They would move Clemson to the 4th spot. SMU would then drop to so that would be great if we got to host SMU, but I think SMU would just be out of the playoff then, personally.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're 9 currently in the rankings, so they would be out."
Jared said, if Clemson and UNLV both win, would Clemson get a first-round bye? Okay, so in that situation, you're looking at the 3, the 4, and the 12 seeds. So if Clemson and UNLV win,
Yeah.
I guess my other question is what happens to Clemson would get the 4 seed because the Big 12 would either be the 12 or 16 seed. And so based on this poll we're looking on the screen.
Yeah.
So the Arizona State or Iowa State, the winner of that would be the number 3 seed. That's absurd. I'm so sorry, but that's absurd. Then Clemson would get the first round bye and be the 4 seed, and UNLV would be the 12 seed. So yes, Clemson would get a first round bye. That's right. David, welcome, buddy. We're glad you're with us. Glad you stopped by. None Better said, I also don't think the group of 5 has any business being on the bracket. They have 0 chance of winning a championship. That's a fair statement. That's a fair statement.
It's that was an agreement between the conferences and the ADs and the NCAA to give them their season, legitimacy. Because otherwise, you're doing like a Premier League type structure, which probably we're moving to anyway. But
right.
I don't disagree with your comment at all. I just the reason they did that was because they had to kind of get the group of 5 conferences to sign on to the playoff. It was an agreement between the ADs. Now, I don't like them getting a bye potentially, but I don't mind them being in the field. I would love to play one of those teams in Neyland.
Yeah, for sure. Mike Johnson said, "Go Big Orange." Absolutely, totally agree. Dustin said, "What if Penn State beats Oregon and Georgia beats Texas?" So it's very possible that if that were, listen, I don't think Oregon's falling out of the top 5 no matter what.
Well, they're all ahead of Tennessee now.
Yes. So unless that means that Oregon and Texas, both of which Oregon would still be a one-loss team. They still have a better record than Tennessee if they got beat this weekend. Texas would have the same record as Tennessee is with 2 losses. I don't know if either one of those teams fall below Tennessee unless it's just like Georgia just annihilates Texas. Then I could see that happening. But I don't think Oregon falls below Tennessee. So that wouldn't bump Tennessee up any unless Georgia just annihilates Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That would still have what we see on the screen in that situation. That Tennessee would still be the 8th seed overall. The best case scenario for Tennessee to move up is if Texas obliterates Georgia, and if Oregon obliterates Penn State, even better.
Right.
That would be. I mean, in that scenario, you can even make a case that Tennessee might even creep up to the 6th seed, but I just don't see any way humanly possible Tennessee goes higher than the 6th seed because Notre Dame doesn't play this weekend. Like, that's the thing. You look at the top line there. So you got 5 teams on the top row. 4 of them play this weekend. One of them doesn't. So the one that doesn't ain't going to fall. So, Notre Dame essentially has either the 6th or the 5th seed, depending on what happens in the conference championships. They have the 5 or the 6 seed wrapped up in a nice little bow. They're not going lower than 6, and they're not going higher than 5. They can't go higher than 5 because they don't play a conference championship. So they're going to be the 5th or 6th seed after losing to Northern Illinois. It's bizarre, man.
So nuts. Yeah, so nuts. I do think, I do think you're going to know a lot more Tuesday with how the committee's going to handle Tennessee and handle Ohio State. And then you just have to wait and see, blowouts in the championship games will be good. Either way.
Yep.
Right. But especially if Georgia gets blown out, or if Georgia wins, you want them to blow out Texas. You want a blowout either way in the SEC championship. And
absolutely,
you want Oregon to destroy Penn State as well.
You definitely don't want like an overtime game because then neither team's moving.
Right.
Will said he thinks Ohio State will be 8, Tennessee will be 9. Kyle said Boise State will get exposed against an SEC team. That is true. Boise State's they're going to get a first round bye if they win. Like they have literally clinched a first round bye if they win their conference championship this weekend.
Well, the benefit is they did play Oregon.
Yeah.
Close.
And only lost by 3 at Oregon.
Right. So that's they have 1 loss, and it's at Oregon by 3.
That game against UNLV this weekend is going to be a good game, though, because that was a 5-point win for Boise State in the regular season when they played. So that's going to be a good game. Dustin said
Boise outgained Oregon in Oregon. Had a great chance to win that game.
I didn't know that. That was good. Dustin said Ohio State lost at home and only scored 10 points to a team that Texas throttled in Michigan. That's a fair point.
That's a really bad loss. I mean, that's a very, very bad loss. I don't know how the committee is going to handle it. I think the AP and the coaches voters handled it about right. I would have dropped it further, but I think they handled it about right.
Green Wave said Ohio State lost at home. Also, Indiana dropped 5 spots for losing to Ohio State on the road. Shouldn't Ohio State drop as much for losing to a lesser team at home? Fair point. None Betta said Notre Dame should be forced to join a conference. Fair point. I'm not going to disagree with you there. Let's see. Some of the questions we've already answered. Greenway said Notre Dame gets credit for just eating Little Debbie's. Yeah.
You know what the weird thing is, and I think you've seen upsets before in the 14 playoff, but there's not just an elite tier of teams in this field. There's not.
Yeah, you're right.
Two teams that I look at and say, I really don't want to play them.
Great point.
I mean, Oregon number 1. That's kind of obvious when you look at, but they about got beat by Boise, about got beat by Ohio State. I
Right.
don't know. I'm not sold on anyone in this field as being some dominant juggernaut that's going to make it through 1, 2, 3, 4 playoff games to win a national championship. I'm not, and that's where you want to be in the field. To the earlier question, is this season a success? Yes, get in the field and see what happens.
And to your point, the fact that there isn't a team on here that everybody just looks at like, oh man, nobody's going to beat them. The fact that Tennessee's defense is as good as it is a reason why Vol fans can be excited about this playoff, because they're going to be in every game they play in. So,
and running game.
Yes,
defense
absolutely.
and rushing the football. Tennessee
Absolutely.
right now has the 7th best odds to win the national championship. Oregon is first, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Tennessee. If you're betting on Penn State to win it, I would just recommend you set your money on fire. You at least stay warm and get a little bit of light out of it.
A couple last comments here. Kyle said Ohio State lost both games at home. Tennessee lost both games on the road. The committee should consider that. I agree.
Ohio State was at Oregon, wasn't it?
Yes, Ohio State. Yeah, that's a good point. So Ohio State
they lost
at Oregon by 1 point.
One at home, one on the road.
Yep. Rhonda said, what about Colorado? So Colorado is eliminated from the playoff because the Big 12 champion will be that spot, and that will be between Arizona State and Iowa State. Let's see.
Just a few weeks ago, we were worried about BYU being ahead of Tennessee and worried about all these teams being ahead of Tennessee, and they've all dropped like flies.
Yep.
Absolutely. I appreciate everybody in the comments. Kyle said, you said it, Michigan AD heads this committee, so enough said. Kevin said, put Rustin on the committee.
I vote for that.
Man, this is awesome. We've had a ton of comments that I wish I could get to all of them. There's just no way I could. But thank you all so much for this. Is incredible. I'm just scrolling through them. This is amazing. Rhonda said, is the conference championships going away after the craziness of this year? I hope so.
But not, I doubt it. It has to stay in the current format unless they do something crazy until 2026. So you got one more year of this, I think, Rhonda. Now, they could just change the rules because they can. I mean, but we'll see. I really think, guys, if you're looking, obviously watch for Ohio State Tuesday, but Georgia's one spot ahead of Tennessee in the coaches poll and the AP poll. There's, in my mind, no way they don't drop below Tennessee if Texas beats them.
I agree. The loss column matters more than head-to-head. Sadly.
It's funny that we're spending all this time tonight talking about playoffs, and Thursday we're going to go live and talk about nothing but basketball.
It's a big week for Tennessee and Lady Vol basketball.
We'll have to talk some hoops soon. We'll have to talk some hoops soon.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I didn't specify what basketball. We're going to be talking about both.
All the basketballs.
Men have Syracuse on Tuesday, and women have Florida State on Wednesday. It's going to be 2 good days.
First big test for the Lady Vols, really, other than, I mean, got a good win against MTSU, but first big test for Kim Caldwell and crew. And the Baller Vols, I was looking at their schedule thinking, when's their first loss?
Mm-hmm.
That they're playing that good right now. I'm looking at when do they lose, and I don't want to jinx it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. You got at Illinois maybe Saturday the 14th.
That'll be a street fight.
Yeah. If they end up beating Illinois, then I'm looking at their schedule. You're thinking they're getting into January with no losses.
Yep. That's
a nice place to be right there.
It sure is.
And when the when the new poll comes out, they should be at least number 4.
Yeah, a lot of teams lost this past week. I'd love to put as many of these comments up as I can, but it's late, and I appreciate all y'all. To the 720 people watching across all 3 platforms, y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I love having all the interaction. Like I said, I wish we could just sit and talk all night, but we can't because we have jobs. So we appreciate you all so much. This is what makes this so fun, is getting to interact with all of you and getting to answer questions and put your comments on the screen, because y'all do a fantastic job of comments. Y'all make great points that we love to share. Reed, you are the man. Thank you so much for joining us. You gave us 2 hours of your time tonight. We can't thank you enough for that, man. We so appreciate you.
No, enjoyed it, guys. Anytime.
Well, we hope everybody joins us on Thursday night at 9 o'clock. That we'll be going live Thursday night to talk about, well, basketball primarily, but I venture to guess that maybe, just maybe, the college football playoff might come up in that show, since we'll have rankings at that point. So
I'm not going to let it.
It depends on what they look like, right?
Yeah. It comes out we're like number 10 in the poll or something. Hey, Dustin said he follows you on Twitter, Reed. Reed is a fantastic follow on Twitter. Everybody wants to follow him for sure.
No, thanks, guys. Yeah, I appreciate everybody viewing tonight and commenting. It's good to see everybody's questions and comments. I finally, I've been reading through them all, so really cool. I've seen all of them, so I do appreciate everybody commenting tonight.
We appreciate the whole Vol Nation showing up in a big way at Vanderbilt, making it look like a home game for Tennessee. Tennessee's tweet after the game was absolutely savage. They had a shot of the crowd. It said "Our State." That was amazing. Mina Laggy said she follows you on Twitter, Reed. Reed is the man. If anything Tennessee sports related, you want to follow Reed, you can find him at Reed Carringer on Twitter. You can see it on the screen there underneath him. And we hope everybody has a great week ahead of you. We hope you join us Thursday night. We look forward to seeing. Mr. Jones said Joe Milton would approve. We look forward to seeing all of you Thursday night. And Reed, thank you again, man. We really do appreciate you.
Enjoyed it, guys.
Have a great evening, everybody, and go Vols.